So really my whole journey started, I'd say if we're thinking about hair, my journey started about 18 years ago. It'll be 19 years next year, 2021. It started off when I was actually at college. I was studying travel and tourism. Nothing to do with hair, and neither my mum or my dad were hairdressers. I was studying travel and tourism. One of my friends wanted their hair cut and had a pair of clippers because I've always had a shaven head, and then from that just started shaving his hair. So studying travel and tourism, I think it was when I was at school, I always wanted to travel, so that was one thing that I've always wanted to do. The great thing is having the opportunity to travel with what I do now. You know, the good thing is, I guess with hair and what I do now, it kind of all just came naturally and organic. I don't really like saying the word organic, but it did come organically. It wasn't one of those ones that was passionate about hair or something that I really wanted to do. So my dad's from Mauritius, my mum's from Philippines. I guess my creativity actually comes from my mum. Being Filipino, she was always, she'd either do stitching, cooking, baking cakes or anything like that. I guess that's where my creativity come from. Like I said, none of my parents or my family's are hairdressers. They're both actually psychiatric nurses, both retired now. It's one of those ones, I've always been brought up around creativity with my mum. And I guess from that, that's kind of where it fell really, with the hairdressing and the barbering. I even remember as a kid, what I'd used to do is I used to get radios or TVs, smaller TVs, and take it apart and then put it back together and just do random stuff like that. I was always I always like to be quite creative with my hands. And yeah, my mum would always, help me with things like that and kind of encourage me to be creative, whether it be drawing or painting or anything like that, Originally I'm from Maidstone, Kent, which is down south. And that's where I grew up, being at school, again, always been as creative as it can be. I used to hang around with my mates, never really used to get in trouble or anything like that, so that was good. It was when I then started to do hairdressing, probably about maybe 2 years into hairdressing, or barbering, I actually decided to move into London just because I wanted more experience. I wanted to work with better people. I had the opportunity to work for this amazing barber, and it's kind of that's really where the whole journey started and began, kind of understanding that there was more to hairdressing than just cutting behind a chair. There was the competitions, there was the shows, session work and stuff like that, It's kind of, I guess when I first started hairdressing, it was just okay, I'm just gonna cut people's hair, make some money from that, and then that's it. But then, you start getting more involved with it, then you start actually understanding that there's actually a lot more that you can do with hairdressing. My whole thing with hair started off barbering, taught myself how to cut hair. From that, I worked in a barbershop in Maidstone. Then, like I said, I wanted to gain more confidence, gain more knowledge. And that's when I decided to start in London. I was in a barbershop for about 3.5 years. And that's when I kind of actually got introduced into Salon International, which is one of the shows in London. Got introduced to doing some shows and competitions. And then I decided to actually join with Tony and Guy. So that was when I was about, I reckon probably about 22, 23. I had to retrain again because I had to learn about ladies hairdressing. But I guess as I started working with the company, that's when I really started to see that there was more to hair than just cutting hair behind a chair. Like I said, I saw a lot of the art directors, they would travel, they'd do all the shows, do the London Fashion Week, they'd do the campaigns. And I really thought, that's something that I'd love to get involved with. The great thing is working for a company like Tony and Guy, I knew if I really worked hard, I could get to that level because, what makes them any different to me? I thought to myself, if they can do it, why can't I do it, I always say, we breathe, we eat, we shit the same, we're all the same, It's entirely up to us, what path and what journey we want to take. So start with Tony and Guy, decided to get a job in London. And that's when I really realized that the hair industry was a massive industry and there was a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of people that would travel. There's a lot of people that would come into London because they want to kind of make their way up within the industry. I guess Tony and Guy really opened up my mind. Working for Tony and Guy, and as I started working up the company, then becoming an art director, then traveling the world with them. I'd always set myself goals to where I'd want to get to and what I'd want to achieve. And I guess with Tony and Guy, it was the whole, I want to become an art director. I want to do the campaigns. I remember once I'd done this, I was in actually the newspaper, in my local newspaper, in Maidstone. And it was about the breakthrough team, and this was a scholarship program that I kind of got the place to do for Tony and Guy. And I remember there was a quote that I wrote, which was basically, they asked me, you know, where would you like to see yourself? And I was like, one day I'd love to see my work in one of the big Tony and Guy billboards. And I achieved that. And that was kind of like the goal through working with Tony and Guy. You know, I wanted to do step-by-steps. I wanted to do the collections. I wanted to travel. Yeah, I guess once I achieved all that, it was good. Like, you know, I had a great time whilst I was there. But then I guess, you know, in the back of my head, I was a bit like, right, I've done this now. What's next? And I just always wanted progression. So I knew like eventually I'd have to leave the company for whatever reason, whether that's going to be opening up my own salon or going to be a freelancer or doing, you know, get my own studio like I've got now. And kind of actually the reason why I actually left Tony and Guy was I had the opportunity to open up my own salon. The story is with that is that I was with a guy who was a client of mine and he was an entrepreneur. He actually sold me the dream that, like, you know, we can get a salon, like, you know, we can get franchises, we can take over the hair world and this, that and the other. And then gave my notes to Tony and Guy and with all intentions to open up this salon. After I left Tony and Guy, you know, I started planning with him. You know, we had a lot of plans already set in place. And then I remember it was the Easter of 2017, gave me a call and said to me, he was like, look, one of the initial investors within the actual business that we was doing had actually pulled out. And he said to me, it was just like, look, don't worry about it, we're gonna find other investments. And at this point, I was actually going on holiday with my other half to Paris. And he said, look, go on holiday. When you come back from holiday, let's meet up, let's go through it, and then we can, you know, try and figure something out. And then I was like, okay, cool, no worries. And then 1 week turned into two turned into three, and then still now haven't heard from him at all. He literally, you know, I left Tony and Guy fully committed to like getting this, you know, I've got my other half, got my house, you know, I had bills to pay, no job, and I was just like, shit man, like he didn't get back to me. And I was just like real quick, I think for about 2 weeks, I was just like, I wasn't in a deep hole, but I was just like, what the hell have I done? I've just left Tony and Guy in such a good position with them. I guess I had it really easy with Tony and Guy, you know, not easy, but like, you know, I kind of headed up the men's course. Like, you know, I was very much doing what I needed to do for the company. They was happy with what I was doing. And I left that, and yeah, for about 2 weeks, I just thought, what the hell have I done? Thought to myself, do you know what, this isn't me. Like, I need to really figure out how am I gonna turn this around. You know, I'm one of these guys, like if I fully commit to like leaving something or doing something, like I have to go ahead with it. Like with me, I'd never want to go back to what I'd kind of originally done. Do you know what I mean? Because I kind of guess that would make me feel like I was going backwards, you know? I decided, you know what, with all the contacts I've got, let me just like write up some sort of like educational program, let me start reaching out to people. And then just started teaching like locally, like in the UK first, and then just start reaching out to different companies abroad. Since 2017, traveled all over the world. Like I've been in America, Japan, Mexico, Brazil, all around Europe, Australia. Like it's crazy, and it's like, it made me realize that, like, you know, I don't need people to help me do what I want to do. You know, if I really put my mind to it, like I can kind of go that direction, you know? So yeah, that was a tough one, but it kind of made me realize, okay, like if I've done this off my own back, you know, what else am I capable of doing, which was great. Yeah, you know, I always believe like everything happens for a reason, and you know, there's that saying, like, you know, that was a blessing in disguise, because I look at myself now and like I look at the position I'm in now and I think to myself, bloody hell, like if I went with that salon, like especially with what's going now in 2020, like I'd literally be tearing my hair out. Not that I've got any hair, but like I'd just be going absolutely crazy. But then I, you know, at the same time, I believe I had those options. I had the option of either, you know, failing and going back to Tony and Guy, or failing and just not doing anything and getting a job number somewhere else, or think to myself, okay, how can I spin this around and how can I actually make something of a situation that hasn't happened, you know? And it's like anything, you know, I talk to people, it's like, you know, you always want to go forward, but if you can't go forward, don't go backwards, just go sideways. I never look at anything that's bad happens like in my life as a negative, you know, it's like learning from it, trying to figure out, you know, how can you try and change that situation, you know? It was actually last year that I decided that I really wanted to get back into shape and get back into my fitness. The journey actually started in 2019, around the March time, it was the end of March, and I remember I was doing a show in Croatia, and it was a big show. It was in front of about maybe 400 people. And this is another great thing with this show that I'd done in Croatia. It was called Hair Expo, which is kind of their equivalent to like Salon International in London, because there was 3 main artists on stage that would be headlining this big show. There was Guy Tang, there was myself, and then the other headliner was Tony and Guy. So it was to share a stage where I'd be headlining with the company that I used to work for, and I'm doing it as an individual. Like, it was a massive achievement for me to do something like that, you know. It was great, you know, it was great to have that sort of like sensation and that sort of like feeling to be like, you know what, like I've kind of made it to that stage now where I'm at the same level and headlining the same show that Tony and Guy's headlining. I remember I was on stage and I was doing the demo. Behind me had these massive screens. And I remember I was like doing this technique and I was like, look, you know, if you look at your body position, and I looked behind me to have a look at the screen to see that my hand position, my body position was right. But then all I saw was just this massive whale being me. I just saw how big I was and I just thought to myself, geez man, like I've literally left loose so much. Like, so that kind of gave me the realization to be like, shit man, you need to like start losing some weight. Like, you know, you've really put on so much weight. And not only that, was my son, like he was born on the 21st of May last year as well. And I just thought to myself, you know what, I just don't want to be a fat dad. Like, I don't want to be running after him and out of breath. I don't want to be sitting down at the sofa whilst he's playing. So that's really when the fitness started. And like anything, it was so frustrating because, you know, I weighed like, back then I was like about 97 kilograms. And then it was a 9 months transformation. And the whole thing I had in my head was like, I just want to get ripped. I want a 6-pack. I guess like anything, because I have that mentality, like if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it no matter what. Like, nothing will stop me. I will literally find out exactly how I'm going to do it and just get on with it. And yeah, I remember like it was 9 months transformation. Within the 9 months, I only had 2 cheat meals, which was like Domino's pizza both time. And other than that, just trained like hard, ate clean. And it was, you know, I always say it's just like just being determined to achieve something that you want to achieve, and, you know, just being very, not narrow vision, but like more tunnel vision, to be like, right, okay, look, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, just carry on going, you know. And there's a saying actually that Denzel Washington says, which is such a great saying, and like I really, really do kind of always go back and think about the same whenever I want to achieve something. And he says, without commitment, you'll never start, but without consistency, you'll never finish. And it's true, because it's like without continuing doing something, you're never going to get to where you want to get to. But then you still need to be fully committed in order to do that first. So it's like with me, I was like, right, I have the commitment that I need to lose weight, I want to lose weight, and I'm doing it for myself. That was my commitment. And the consistency was just making sure I'm training, making sure I'm eating clean, because there's so many people that they'll be like, yeah, I'm consistent at doing this, but I'm gonna have like a little chocolate bar here and there and everywhere. And it's like you're going 1 step forward, but then you're taking 2 steps back, you know? And it's like, that's the thing, you know, it's just been so focused into that. And the great thing with the fitness journey is I believe that rubs off on me as an individual throughout my business as well, is if I want to really achieve something, if I really want to do something, like you do have control over your own destiny and your own path that you want to go to. I guess, you know, one piece of advice that I'd give someone is that always keep busy, you know, and that's whether you're busy doing something which is going to be productive. I know like so many people was doing, like, you know, so many people were baking, so many people was like reading books, watching podcasts, you know, like be as creative as you can be. And don't get me wrong, have your downtime where you're going to be playing like your Xbox or PlayStation, but you've just got to remember, you know, or watch a film, but you've got to remember is like, there's so many people that complain saying, oh, I don't have time to do something. And I'm like, yo, you've just watched a film for an hour and a half. What have you learned from that film? Nothing. Yes, it's entertained you and you've enjoyed the film, but you haven't actually gained anything from it. So it's like, you know, you can't then complain and say, oh, I haven't got time to train. I haven't got time to work on my business. It's just like, I haven't got time to work on my website. I'm like, if you used that hour and a half that you spent watching that film, you could have been so much more productive into achieving the goals that you want to achieve in the future, you know. So, you know, it's just being as productive and it's just being as creative as you can, really, and just that's the thing, you want to motivate yourself as well, and like, you know, as much as possible. And I find I get motivation by doing new things because it motivates me to be a better person, you know.